7 chairs, 7 plates, 7 smiles that never changed. The table shone beneath the lamps, with silver forks and painted glass. A feast was waiting in the room, as though no winter hour had passed. They welcomed her with gentle words. They pulled the final chair aside. The woman said, "You must be cold." The man said, "Stay with us tonight." The children folded little hands and stared without a single sound. The steam rose slowly from the bowls, but no one touched the food around. She listened for a breath or cough, a spoon against a porcelain plate. But every person at the table sat as still as painted saints. Their cheeks were warm, their eyes were bright, but something in the candlelight was never quite alive. No one at the table breathed, no shadow moved beneath their feet. They smiled whenever she looked up, then watched her closely while she ate. No one at the table breathed, no heartbeat trembled through the room. She thought the forest held the fear, but fear was seated next to you. Silver knife, empty chest, every guest becomes the rest. The youngest girl began to hum a song the traveler knew too well. Her mother sang it years ago, before she vanished near the well. She dropped the spoon upon the floor and saw beneath the tablecloth a line of roots around their legs and bark where human skin came off. The father turned his wooden head, the mother's painted smile grew wide. The children spoke with one cold voice: "You should have stayed outside." The door behind her disappeared, the windows filled with thorn and frost, and every chair around the table held the name of someone lost. No one at the table breathed, no shadow moved beneath their feet. They smiled whenever she looked up, then watched her closely while she ate. No one at the table breathed, no heartbeat trembled through the room. She thought the forest held the fear, but fear was seated next to you. Count the plates, count the names. Every traveler feeds the flame. Leave your coat, leave your skin. The cottage always lets you in. 7 chairs, 7 chairs, 7 plates, 7 smiles that never changed. She struck the match. The forest held its breath. One little flame became the end of everything that fed on death. She found the names inside the walls. She found the cellar deep. She found the dolls and stolen faces the house had sworn to keep. The family gathered in the hall without their borrowed skin. Their wooden mouths began to chant, "You never should have entered in." The cottage locked its every door, the windows filled with thorns, but all the voices of the lost rose louder with the morn. She broke the mirror, cut the roots, and opened every cage, then carried one small candle through the house's final rage. The roof began to tremble, the chimney screamed her name, but fear becomes a weapon when you finally choose the flame. She burned the cottage at dawn and let the stolen shadows rise. The forest filled with human voices returning to the sky. She burned the cottage at dawn until no false room stood. The safest looking house had died and truth returned to wood. Red flame, white sun, every captive starts to run. The dolls became young children. The faces found their bones. The names inside the wall stepped free and started walking home. The woman reached through burning beams, still wearing half the smile. She cried, "You cannot leave this place. You have belonged here all the while." The traveler looked into her eyes and dropped the final key. "You made a home from stolen lives. A home should let them leave." The roof collapsed into the earth. The cellar gave one roar, and where the cottage stood before, wildflowers crossed the floor. She burned the cottage at dawn and let the stolen shadows rise. The forest filled with human voices returning to the sky. She burned the cottage at dawn until no false room stood. The safest looking house had died and truth returned to. Let the smoke carry the names. Let the morning break the spell. No war night is worth the price of making someone else yourself. At dawn, she struck the match. The forest held its breath. One little flame became the end of everything that fed on death. The bedroom knew her footsteps before she crossed the floor. The curtains breathed her name out from behind the locked door. A little bed stood by the wall, with ribbons faded pale. A porcelain doll upon the shelf still wore a traveler's veil. The woman said, "You must be tired. This room will keep you warm." But every blanket held the scent of someone lost before the storm. The mirror showed her younger face. The window showed no trees. The floorboards creaked beneath her feet, like someone on their knees. She touched the carved initials hidden underneath the frame. A dozen girls had slept there once, and everyone had signed the same. The room had kept their whispers, the walls had learned their fear, and every night the cottage chose another child to keep here. The bedroom remembered her, though she had never slept inside. It knew the songs her mother sang, and every place she tried to hide. The bedroom remembered her. It held her shadow on the wall. She thought the room was waiting still, but it had never slept at all. Dusty lace, silver key. Every room keeps memory. At midnight all the dolls looked up. Their painted eyes turned blue. The blanket tightened round her wrists. The doorway disappeared from view. A voice beneath the mattress said, "Do not let them hear you cry." The house collects the frightened ones and teaches them to die. She tore the ribbon from the bed and found a hidden key. It opened one small wooden chest filled with names and bits of teeth. The cottage shook around her. The woman screamed below, and every girl inside the walls began to tell her where to go. The bedroom remembered her, though she had never slept inside. It knew the songs her mother sang, and every place she tried to hide. The bedroom remembered her. It held her shadow on the wall. She thought the room was waiting still, but it had never slept at all. Break the bed, open the wall, hear the missing children call. breathed her name out from behind the locked door. Beneath the kitchen floor, behind the iron grate, the cellar breathed in darkness and listened while she ate. The cottage settled after midnight. The fire began to fade. The family climbed the wooden stairs and left the table laid. She heard a sound below her chair, a slow and heavy sigh. The floorboards lifted half an inch, then softly settled down. A little door behind the stove was covered up with thread. The woman said, "It holds old wine." The little boy shook his head. She waited until every room had fallen cold and still, then cut the thread and found a stair descending through the hill. The air grew warm beneath the earth. The darkness moved like skin. The cellar was not under the house. The house was built on it. The cellar was still breathing. Its ribs were made of stone. The cottage stood above a thing that never lived alone. The cellar was still breathing, and every breath drew near. The family fed it travelers to keep it sleeping here. Iron stair, black and vain. Every heartbeat shakes the chain. She reached the bottom of the steps and found a chamber red. The walls were lined with wooden doors, each marked above a bed. Inside were coats and little shoes and names cut into bone. The missing guest had fed the thing that made the house a home. The giant root beneath the floor began to pulse and rise, and in its bark were human mouths and half-remembered eyes. The family stood behind her now, their borrowed faces gone. They said the cellar must be fed before the coming dawn. The cellar was still breathing. Its ribs were made of stone. The cottage stood above a thing that never lived alone. The cellar was still breathing, and every breath drew near. The family fed it travelers to keep it sleeping here. Cut the root, burn the vein, let the buried speak again. Break the floor, wake the ground, let the whole house hear the sound. Beneath the kitchen floor, behind the iron grate, the cellar breathed in darkness and listened while she ate. little window burn. She broke the final window, she tore the roots apart. She ran beyond the crooked trees with splinters in her heart. Behind her came the screaming house, its chimney bent like bone. The family fell to dust and thread the moment she was gone. She crossed the river by the mill, she reached the village gate. The people wrapped her in a coat and told her she was safe. But when the bells began to ring, she heard beneath the sound a wooden floorboard creaking where no cottage stood around. She left the house behind her, she left the forest black. But some doors learn your footsteps and some homes follow back. The cottage followed her home through every road and dream. Its windows watched behind her eyes, its roots beneath the streets. The cottage followed her home, though every wall had burned. She escaped the thing inside the woods, but something else returned. White smoke, black door. Every escape becomes one more. That night she woke inside her room to candle-colored light. A teacup waited by the bed, a table set just right. Her mother stood beside the fire, though buried years ago. Her father smiled behind the chair and said, "We miss you so." She backed away and touched the wall, the plaster turned to bark. The village windows disappeared, the ceiling filled with dark. Then from beneath her childhood bed a little voice began, "You brought the cottage home with you, now let the feast begin." The cottage followed her home through every road and dream. Its windows watched behind her eyes, its roots beneath the street. The cottage followed her home, though every wall had burned. She escaped the thing inside the woods, but something else returned. Burn the road, break the name, do not lead it back again. Some cursed homes do not stay, they grow inside the ones who stray. She found the road at sunrise. She thought the night was done, but somewhere in her bedroom a little window burned. A candle burned behind the glass, a little house beneath the rain. Before before she touched the wooden door. The cottage whispered out her name. She had been walking since the dawn, with mud along her silver shoes. The forest folded in behind and left her with no road to choose. Then through the fog she saw a light, a chimney breathing into gray, a table set for one lost girl, a fire warm enough to stay. She raised her hand to knock 3 times, but heard the lock release sad too. A voice inside said, "Come in, dear. We have been waiting here for you." The walls were painted soft and white, the floor was clean, the bread was warm, but every portrait in the hall had eyes that changed from shape to form. The room already knew her footsteps, the chair remembered how she sat. The cottage had prepared her place long before she found the path. The cottage knew her name before she ever crossed the door. It knew the dream she never told and what she had been running for. The cottage knew her name. It whispered softly through the flame. She thought she found a place to hide, but hiding places know the game. Wooden walls, golden light, something breathing out of sight. A woman came with porcelain skin and poured dark tea into a cup. Her smile was kind, her hands were still. She never seemed to breathe enough. A little boy sat by the stove and watched her with unblinking eyes. A tall man carved a wooden bird that sounded almost like it cried. She asked them where their village was. They pointed deeper through the trees. She asked them when they last had slept. They smiled and answered, "When you leave." Then every clock began to stop. The fire turned a color blue, and underneath the dining table something reached toward her shoe. The cottage knew her name before she ever crossed the door. It knew the dream she never told and what she had been running for. The cottage knew her name. It whispered softly through the flame. She thought she found a place to hide, but hiding places know the game. Do not trust the waiting chair, do not drink the tea. Some homes are built from memories of guests who could not leave. A candle burned behind the glass, a little house beneath the rain. Before she touched the wooden door, cottage, whispered out her name. Porcelain faces lined up in a row. Their eyes stayed still, but their voices said, "Don't go." The shelves were filled from floor to roof with dolls in faded lace. Each one had a different dress and almost human face. The woman said, "They keep me company, they never make a sound." But when the traveler turned away, she heard them moving round. One wore a scarlet ribbon, one held a silver key, one had the same small birthmark hidden near her knee. She stepped a little closer. The smallest doll looked up. Its painted mouth began to crack and whispered, "Don't drink from the cup." The room was full of warnings sewn beneath the skin. The cottage kept its former guests and dressed them up again. The dolls began to whisper when the family left the room. They told her where the keys were kept and what lived in the gloom. The dolls began to whisper with voices faint and small. "We were once the girls who slept inside this cursed hall." Tiny feet, glass eyes, every doll remembers lies. She took the key from scarlet thread and opened up a drawer. Inside were names and little shoes from travelers before. The dolls began to turn their heads in one slow, careful line. They pointed toward the cellar stair at exactly 9:30. The mother came without a sound, a needle in her hand. She said, "You should not listen, dear. They do not understand." But all the dolls began to scream. Their painted faces split. The traveler threw the candle down and watched the curtains lit. The dolls began to whisper when the family left the room. They told her where the keys were kept and what lived in the gloom. The dolls began to whisper with voices faint and small. "We were once the girls who slept inside this cursed hall." Cut the ribbon, break the shelf, give each stolen child herself. Burn the thread, open the eyes, let the little voices rise. Porcelain faces lined up in a row. Their eyes stayed still, but their voices said, "Don't go." fire grew bright. The door closed softly behind her that night. The rain had soaked her scarlet coat. The forest clawed against her skin. The cottage stood with windows gold and something warm and kind within. A kettle sang beside the fire. Fresh blankets waited by the stair. A gentle voice from down the hall said, "Little traveler, come in here." She crossed the floor and turned around to thank the dark for letting go. But when she reached the wooden door, there was no handle there to hold. The window showed the forest path, yet every tree was upside down. And somewhere in the upper rooms, bare feet were circling around. The house became much quieter the moment she understood. A door can look like rescue when it only leads to wood. The door closed by itself and took the forest from her sight. The cottage wore a friendly face, but locked its hunger in the night. The door closed by itself, no key, no chain, no warning bell. She thought she left the woods behind, but walked into a deeper spell. Locked room, black stare, something waiting everywhere. She followed whispers up the steps, past dolls arranged along the wall. Each one were scraps of different clothes, from travelers both short and tall. A bedroom waited at the end, with roses carved around the frame. The pillow held a strand of hair, the mirror showed another name. Behind the glass, a dozen girls were pounding from a silent place. And in the corner stood the woman, slowly taking off her face. Beneath the skin was twisted bark, beneath the smile were rows of thread. She said, "The house requires a daughter. You may choose which one is dead." The door closed by itself and took the forest from her sight. The cottage wore a friendly face, but locked its hunger in the night. The door closed by itself, no key, no chain, no warning bell. She thought she left the woods behind, but walked into a deeper spell. Break the mirror, break the wall. Do not answer when they call. Every doorway has a cost. Every home remembers lost. She stepped inside. The fire grew bright. The door closed softly behind her that night. The candles showed their face The silver showed the room, but every polished surface refused to show them too. Fixed her velvet sleeve, the father poured the wine. The children laughed beside the stove and said that all was fine. A mirror hung above the fire, its frame was carved with eyes. The traveler saw herself within, but no one by her side. She turned toward the little girl, who smiled and touched the glass, yet nothing moved beside her hand. No shadow seemed to pass. The father said the mirror broke 100 years before. Could see 3 strangers at the door. Their voices sounded gentle, their skin was warm and fair. But mirrors tell the oldest truths when nothing human stands there. The family had no reflections, no shadows crossed the light. They wore the silver broke the seal. Cold glass, golden flame. Every face hides another name. She asked the mother where she came. The answer changed each time. She asked the father what he loved. He spoke in perfect rhyme. The children stopped their laughing and turned their heads as one. The mirror filled with moving shapes that never touched the sun. Behind the family's borrowed forms were roots and hollow bone, 1,000 mouths inside the glass, all begging to go home. The traveler raised a candle high and pressed it to the frame. The reflection screened before the room and called her by her name. The family had no reflections, no shadows crossed the light. They wore the faces of the lost and borrowed them at night. The family had no reflections, though every smile looked real. The cottage gave them human skin, but silver broke the seal. Break the mirror, free the faces, call the lost from hidden places. Let the glass return the skin, show the things that live within. The candles showed their faces, the silver showed the room, but every polished surface refused to show them too. The fire was fleeting shadows, one by one across the wall. Each time a shadow disappeared, she heard another traveler call. Was white and burning bright, though no one fed the flame. The woman said the wood was old, the man refused to name. The girl sat near the orange glow and watched the darkness twist. The shadows of the family did not match the shapes they kissed. The father's shadow had 4 arms, the mother's climbed along the roof. The children's shadows wore long horns and moved apart from every foot. Her own reflection touched the fire, then pulled away as if in pain. She heard a voice repeat her mother's name. The warmth became a warning, the lights became a mouth. The cottage fed on darkness and would never let it out. The fire was eating shadows and leaving bodies in their place. It burned away the human parts and gave the hunger a girl who looked exactly like the daughter, sitting near the table with empty eyes beneath the light. She held the locket toward the flame. The family began to shake. Their borrowed faces cracked apart, their gentle voices turned to snakes. The shadows rushed across the room and climbed back into bone and skin. The cottage screamed through every board, you were never meant to leave again. The fire was once more. Disappeared, she heard another traveler call. The windows glowed like home. The fire spoke her name. The house said, "You are tired. you never have to leave again. Gave her back her childhood room, her mother's faded chair, the smell of bread on winter nights, her father's coat still there. The floor became the hallway she had lost so long ago. The cottage knew each little thing no stranger ought to know. A voice came softly through the walls, you have been alone enough. No road outside will love you, no forest will be kind. The traveler touched the painted door and felt the wood grow warm. The house began to hold her like a body in a storm. It did not use a chain or lock, it offered what she missed. The sweetest cages do not close, they ask to be dismissed. The house asked her to stay, in every voice she loved. It built a perfect memory and placed the stars above. The house asked her to stay, where nothing had to end. But every room that called her home was built from someone else's death. Warm light, soft floor, every longing builds a door. Her mother stood beside the bed and brushed away her hair. She said, the world has hurt you, you are safer with us here. But in the mirror, mother's mouth was stitched from root and thread, and every loving word she spoke came from the cottage instead. The traveler closed her eyes and heard the true wind through the trees, a distant road, a barking dog, the sound of being free. She stepped away from all she missed and let the false room fade. The house began to scream at her, you chose the world that made you afraid. The house asked her to stay, in every voice she loved. It built a perfect memory and placed the stars above. The house asked her to stay, where nothing had to end. But every room that called her home was built from someone else's death. Love does not lock the door, love does not steal your name. Home is not a hungry thing that asks you not to change. The windows glowed like home, the fire spoke her name. The house said, you are tired. She walked away again. Steam above the porcelain, a flower painted blue. She took one careful sip and remembered something untrue. The woman placed the teacup down and smiled across the lace. She said, this blend will calm your heart, it helps you know your place. The tea was sweet with apple skin and bitter underneath. It warmed the traveler's empty hands, then settled in her teeth. The room became her childhood home, the fire became the sun. Her mother stood beside the door and called her little one. But through the dream the cottage creaks, the walls began to bend, and every memory at the table reached a different end. The cup was full of stolen days, the steam was full of lies. The cottage brewed its guests away and drank behind their eyes. The tea tasted like a memory she wished had still been true. It showed her every loving face, then slowly changed the view. The tea tasted like a memory, but memories should not bleed. The cottage poured her own past back to learn exactly what she'd need. Porcelain, silver spoon, every dream ends too soon. She saw her father in the hall, though he had died before. He opened up his arms to her and stood beside the door. She nearly crossed the room to him, but noticed in the glass his shadow moved before his feet and smiled before he asked, "Stay here with us forever, no one will leave again." The voices of the cottage rose through family, child and friend. She threw the cup against the wall, the dream split into flame, and every false beloved face returned to wood and grain. The tea tasted like a memory she wished had still been true. It showed her every loving face, then slowly changed the view. The tea tasted like a memory, but memories should not bleed. The cottage poured her own past back to learn exactly what she'd need. Spill the tea, break the spell, do not drink what knows you well. Love can my grief, can stay some warm cups, take names away. Steam above the porcelain, a flower painted blue. She took one careful sip and remembered something untrue. Under the paper, under the paint, the walls held names of every missing saint. The traveler found a crack at dawn beside the bedroom frame. She pulled away the floral paper and uncovered half a name. Another layer came beneath and dozens more appeared, carved deep into the cottage wood by hands that once lived here. Some names were small and crooked, some written straight and clear. Some ended with a single word, please remember I was here. She traced the letters one by one until her fingers bled. The walls began to whisper back in voices of the dead. The cottage wore new wallpaper whenever guests were gone, but underneath its pretty rooms their final words lived on. The walls were full of names the family tried to hide. Every room was built around the ones who stayed and died. The walls were full of names, still calling through the grain. She thought the house was silent, but it remembered every pain, peeling paint, wooden scar. Every name still travels far. She followed names into the hall where one line climbed the stair. It led behind the family portrait to a hollow chamber there. Inside were letters never sent and locks of braided hair. 100 final messages from children trapped in there. The father stood behind her, his smile no longer kind. He said a house needs memories, we only keep what guests leave behind. She held the candle to the wall. The carvings glowed like flame, and every voice inside the wood began to shout its name. The walls were full of names the family tried to hide. Every room was built around the ones who stayed and died. The walls were full of names, still calling through the grain. She thought the house was silent, but it remembered every pain. Read them all, do not forget. Every name remains a debt. Tear the paper, split the frame. Let the world repeat each name. Under the paper, under the paint, the walls held names of every missing saint. She smiled by the candle. She poured one final glass, then slowly raised her fingers and began to lift the mask. cheeks were warm, her hair was neat, her eyes reflected light. She never slept, she never ate, she never crossed the door. She only watched the traveler and swept the spotless floor. At midnight in the upstairs hall, a mirror caught the truth. The woman's face was hanging loose like fabric losing use. She reached behind her painted ear and found a hidden scene, then pulled her beauty from her skull as calmly as a dream. Beneath the skin was polished wood and roots around the bone. The face had once belonged to someone who had walked here all alone. The woman took off her face and laid it by the flame. Underneath was something old that never had a name. The woman took off her face and smiled without the skin. You look so much like my last guest. Your face will fit me better than hers did. Velvet skin, wooden jaw, every beauty hides a flaw. The traveler backed against the wall, the hallway stretched too long. The woman's empty wooden mouth began a nursery song. She opened up a cabinet where faces hung in rows. Some young, some old, some pale as snow, each labeled with a rose. The traveler saw her mother there, her eyes still wet with fear. The woman said she stayed one winter, I have worn her 20 years. She grabbed the silver sewing shears and cut the root-bound thread. The stolen faces opened eyes and screamed above the bed. The woman took off her face and laid it by the flame. Underneath was something old that never had a name. The woman took off her face and smiled without the skin. You look so much like my last guest. Your face will fit me better than hers did. Cut the seam, drop the mask. Never trust the face that asks. Burn the skin, break the frame. Give the stolen back their names. She smiled by the candle. She poured one final glass, then slowly raised her fingers and began to lift the mask. Thread through the lips, buttons for eyes. They welcomed her softly in borrowed disguise. The cottage smelled of sugared pears and lavender along the floor. 3 figures waited by the fire when she appeared beside the door. The mother wore a velvet dress, the father bowed with polished grace. The daughter laughed behind her fan, but none could move a natural face. Their cheeks were smooth as painted clay, their fingers bent like wooden wire. They offered soup and asked her why. She wandered through the forest mire. She tried to smile and answer them, but noticed when the daughter turned, a row of stitches by her jaw. voices sounded human, their manners all were right, but every smile was tied in place with thread pulled far too tight. Their smiles were stitched on, their kindness sewn by hand. They welcomed every lonely child exactly as they planned. Their smiles were stitched on, their eyes were made of glass. They promised her a family if she would join them at last. Spin the thread, paint the skin, make the stranger one of them. The mother brought a silver needle, the father locked the cellar door. The daughter placed a dress beside her, worn by someone else before. She backed away toward the window, but vines had climbed across the pane. The stitched ones formed a careful circle and called her by another name. We lost our child one winter night. The forest would not give her back, so now the house provides another every time the moon turns black. The daughter's smile began to split, a frightened human voice broke through. She whispered, "Run before they finish. I was once a girl like you." Their smiles were stitched on, their kindness sewn by hand. They welcomed every lonely child exactly as they planned. Their smiles were stitched on, their eyes were made of glass. They promised her a family if she would join them at last. Cut the thread, tear the seam, wake the child beneath the dream. Pretty faces, gentle eyes, nothing human lives inside. Thread through the lips, buttons for eyes. They welcomed her softly in bar